Hey, what's up? This is Tristan again. Today is the first full day on my quarantine. Today is May 29th, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and hope you're as excited as I am to go absolutely nowhere. So, for the record, I took the leisure today of filling out the first entry to my health status log right up here. So, I confirmed that I have no fever, no cough, no runny, stuffy nose, no diarrhea, no limb weakness, no breathing difficulties, still healthy, still going strong, doing my part, yeah? So at this point, I kind of want to talk a little bit about my family's experience with food delivery during quarantine so far. So as I mentioned before, because of the regulation that each person needs to have their own room and also their own restroom in quarantine, my family is actually split in two locations. My mom and I are in a friend's apartment in Danshui district, and my dad is with my brother in our own apartment in Neihu district. So yesterday my mom and I placed our first food delivery order. We did it through Uber Eats, and it was for boba. But the delivery guy had to go through building security. So normally how that would work is the delivery person would leave your order at the lobby with the security, and you would then go down and get it and then come back up to your room. However, we're in quarantine, so therefore we cannot leave the room, and we kind of talked with the security officer, and they were willing to make an exception and allow the delivery person to come up to our room and leave the stuff outside our door. And so my dad and my brother ran into a similar issue with their building, but their security guard is not as lenient with allowing the delivery person to come up to their room. And I understand their concern is, probably that allowing the delivery guy up might intrude upon the privacy of the residents, right? They might steal stuff as well. But for my dad and my brother, right, this is a serious problem in quarantine, right? Because if the delivery guy can't come up, and they also can't go down because they're quarantined, right, then the only way really to get food other than the food in your fridge would be to ask somebody like a friend or a family member, to deliver it up to you, which is really inconvenient, right? And so what I'm trying to say is it's sort of tricky, right? Like what flies in one building and one community may not work in another building, another community. And I just want to say I really hope my dad, my brother, and the security guard figure it out, because if they cannot get it sorted out, right, it would be really inconvenient for them in the following days to come. Okay, so I took a little bit of time to research my options for breakfast food delivery, and I thought, what better place to start than Uber Eats, right? Because it turns out that they also have it here in Taiwan. We could only do the delivery option because we could not pick up the food because we're in quarantine. So, right, and I looked and I said, wow, okay, so even for breakfast, there is a good selection of restaurants. So how it works, right, it turns out that if there is a delivery option for a particular restaurant, they might charge a fixed fee for delivery, or they might mark up every item by a particular percentage, or they may do none, or they may do both. And so you see there's more boba tea here. And then at one point it just says currently unavailable, currently unavailable, currently unavailable. I gather this probably means that they're not open yet, because again, this is the morning, so some diners aren't open at this point. Right, so in total I count about 20 to 25 breakfast options if I do not count the drink stores, right? And this to me is already really handsome number. Reason being, we're actually in Danshui district of New Taipei City, which is formerly Taipei County, right? And what that means is, for this particular community at least, there's a lot of undeveloped kind of land, and so the population density is not as high as like in the middle of like Taipei City, for example. And so, for a place like this, right, this already is a really surprisingly high amount of options for restaurants that we can order breakfast. So with that in mind, I thought to myself, okay, Uber Eats can't be the only food delivery option, right? There must be something else. And it turns out that there's another website for delivery called Food Panda. I forgot who told me about it, but this is not a company that offers its services in the US at this point, I don't think. And so, right, it's in Chinese, and there are actually a lot more options in total on this website than Uber Eats, right? So like, right off the bat, right, that is much more than 20 to 25. Also, right, if you keep scrolling down, right, you have even more restaurants that have yet to open, and it actually tells you when it will. So, in accordance with Taiwan's quarantine law, there can be no person-to-person contact between you and the delivery guy. So they have to speak to us through this intercom, telling us that she put the order at our doorstep, and she now left. So we are now safe to open the door and retrieve our order, which is what I'm gonna do right now. Oh, see, it's right here. And close the door. So one thing to know about ordering food in Taiwan is that on average, food is much cheaper than where I live in Silicon Valley in California. However, the average serving size is also much smaller. So this is actually breakfast for two. And so you see what we got. It's like croissant. And then, open this up real quick. We got this like kind of Western style breakfast. Okay, so like I said before, we had our family friends stockpile our house for us, before we got here, so we wouldn't have a lack of food for the next 2 weeks. And so this is among our inventory. So you have stuff that you might find at your local Costco, whatever, like olive oil. There's also packets for corn soup. And in this box, right, I found this. And okay, so this bottle, right, based on its shape, sort of looks like drinkable liquor, right? And yet, right, it's clearly labeled like some sort of antiseptic. Like, for example, it says 75% alcohol in like really bold letters at the top, right? So it turns out that this is manufactured by the Taiwan Tobacco and Liquor Company. It's a state-owned manufacturer, right, of liquor, right? But this actually is an antiseptic that they have started to manufacture with their rice wine facilities, right, during the pandemic period. So I suppose, right, this is their way of giving back to the communities and, serving people's needs during this, pandemic period, right? They say this smells like rice wine because, like I said before, this was distilled in a similar way. Obviously, the alcohol content, 75% is much higher, right, than you would expect in wine. So don't drink it. So I did a little bit of research, right? This is a 300 milliliter bottle. It will cost you 40 new Chinese dollars, which is about $1.30 US dollars. And they said that they're committed to not raising the price as long as the pandemic is happening. Okay, so I moved this box back into the corner where I found it, right, along with the rest of the food that we have. So, this is probably from Costco, the coconut water, and then here we have some like snacks, like crispy fries. If you take a look in the fridge, we got eggs, we got milk. This is the boba tea from yesterday. There's another one up here. What is it? Tofu. We got some vegetables, lots of vegetables, croissants, packaged noodles, soy milk, and more fruits, frozen fruit, and then we got bottled Japanese tea. Lots of it. Okay, so now it's 4 o'clock, and just about 5 minutes ago, my mom got a notification from our family friend saying that they left a bunch of stuff for us outside our door, and we opened the door and we got all of this, right? And so a impressive amount of tissue paper. But the thing that I'm actually most interested in is this adapter. Okay, so why am I so interested in this adapter? Is because when I first came into this apartment room, I quickly realized that there was no TV. There was this screen, however, and there was also a projector under that sofa. And with the projector, there was this hard drive. And I checked it using my computer. There are a lot of movies on this. However, I cannot attach the projector to my computer to play the movies on this screen because the adapter was not compatible to my MacBook Air, which is the reason why I asked my friend for this mini DisplayPort to VGA adapter. Now we can watch movies on this big screen. Again, they're really nice to provide for us. Right now we don't got no Netflix, we have Amazon Prime and stuff like that. But, right, we got a lot of movies we can play on the screen, and I'm really happy for that. Okay, so it's 7:30, right, so it's dinner time. And instead of buying delivery again, we thought, we'd fix together something of our own from the stuff we got in our fridge. So this is really simple, right? Salad, we got fish, and remember those corn soup packets I showed you earlier from the box? Yeah, right there. All right, let's eat. So if you take a look in our kitchen, right, remember what I said about trying to minimize waste production as much as possible during these days of quarantine? Well, turns out we aren't doing that really well. So it's only been like, one full day. We've already filled up like half this trash bag. So hopefully, it doesn't start to stink really soon, and the trash guy comes sooner than later, so we can get rid of this bag. Just something that I learned recently that I thought would be interesting to share. A friend of mine saw the first episode of my vlog, and he contacted me via Messenger. We went to middle school together, and then he was like, "Oh, Tristan, so you're back in Taiwan too." I came back mid-March, right, and I also had to go to quarantine. So, during the period of time around mid-March, right, things are looking pretty bad in Taiwan. The disease is spreading both within Taiwan and also being, carried into Taiwan from other parts of the world, right? You hear about doctors and nurses getting sick, treating patients in the hospitals, right, stuff like that. And so my guess would be that the police will be even more strict in terms of enforcing, quarantine policies around that time compared to right now, for example. And so going back to my middle school friend, he said, "Oh, one day, right, early in the morning, the policeman knocked on my door, and then, it was because they couldn't find my phone because I ran out of battery overnight and forgot to charge it." So let me reiterate this real quick, right? His phone ran out of battery overnight, and the policeman knocked on his door to check up on him because they could not locate his whereabouts using his device. So, yet another example, right, to illustrate that you should not be testing the Taiwanese police when it comes to, breaking quarantine regulations, right? They're like freaking Liam Neeson in the movie Taken. They will hunt you down, they will find you, and you cannot hide. Alright, so it's 8:30 right now, and I suppose this brings us to the end of, day one of my quarantine vlog. And I think at this point, I can say that, both physically and mentally, I'm doing just fine, so no signs of fatigue other than, jet lag, obviously. Yesterday at this time, I pretty much crashed, so I'd say I'm doing pretty good right now. Hopefully, it stays that way, and I can continue to, share interesting bits and pieces of my life in quarantine in the days to come with you guys. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for all their prayers and all their well wishes and for all the help they gave to my family during the move and now during our quarantine as well. Thank you very much. So that's it, right? 13 more days to go, and I'll see you tomorrow.